Okay, hi, and welcome to what is hopefully going to be a series of videos trying to explain more about the workings of Minima so that you can understand how to run it, how to write mini dApps for it, you know, what it does, how it's written, etc., etc. So in this first video, I'm going to start by just showing you the absolute basics. What is Minima? How do you run it? Um, And Minima is, at its core, it's a Java application. Yeah. So at its core, once I've written the code and once I've compiled it, I get a jar, a Java jar, and that's what I put into the APK. Yeah. So there's currently Minima runs on all the desktops. You can run it on Windows, Mac, Linux, and all that, but you can also run it on your Android phone. Yeah. Java's good like that. You can just import it and it works. So let's have a look at what it does. Yeah. Let's have a look before I look into all the other stuff at its absolute core. So I've got my command line here, and I'm in the jar folder of the repo, but you can just get the jar. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to start Minima, Java dash jar minima.jar. Okay, that's actually the default setting. If you want to know what the settings that you can set when you're starting it are, just type help. Yeah, that'll show you all the things that you can do, and I'll go through more of those later on. But at its core, you can just start it by doing java dash jar minima.jar. So let's see what happens. The first time I run it, I don't have any versions of Minima on this. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do dash clean. If you've got a previous version, you may have to do that. But let's see what happens. Right, java dash jar, minima.jar. Minima is starting up. I'm running the version 1.0.32, which is, the latest one that I'm working on that will be up there. It's doing some initialization stuff. It's saying that the MDS is enabled. We'll worry about that later, the Minidapp system. It's using P2P version 1.1, so it's now connecting to the network and it's finding hosts and it's doing stuff. There you go. It's downloaded the blockchain. It's got that many blocks. And what you do when you start up like this is you connect to the network and you download all of the PAL and the MMR database, which means that you have all the work that's gone into making the chain so that you can judge which one is the heaviest chain. And you have a database, which is called a proof database. Don't worry about that. And what that means is that all of you can keep track of your coins without having to worry about anybody else's coins. And when somebody wants to spend those coins, they can add data to their transactions that show you that those coins exist. I mean, the point about Minima is that it's meant to be lean and compact. It's meant to be so small that any of you can run it. And we're off. I mean, that's it now. So let's have a look. So if I say block, boom. Okay, I'm on the latest block, 10.05.229.309. That's it. That was the whole initialization process. It's doing stuff in the background. It's generating your keys, but you don't have to worry about that. It's connecting to stuff and downloading. It's talking to all the other chains. There you go. That's nice. But the bottom line is that it's not a heavy protocol. It's meant to be a really lean, compact system. So if I, like, just to say, let's stop it, right? Control, I can need to do quit, right? There we go. Okay, now it's shut down. Now I can just start it up again. There we go. And now, now it just continues from where it left off. You may notice that I'm not having to download as much data from everybody because I've already got the chain. I've already got all the data, the MMR and the stuff. And so that's now ticking along. Status is a good one. Well, there you go. That gives you information about what's happening on the chain, how much RAM you're using, disk space, how long you've been running, etc., etc. Let's have a look at my balance. Oops. Balance. There you go. I got nothing. I got no money. So the point about Minima is that when you're running it, is that it gives you a set of commands. If you type help, it shows you these list of commands that you've got. You've got obvious ones like send, receive, but you also have lots of quite interesting ones like transaction create, and you can run scripts and you can test stuff, and you can export coins and you can import coins. But everything that you can do has been condensed and put into these functions. Like, having used many blockchain systems before, I always found that their core versions just didn't give me the complete package. I always had to use other things and other bits and plug them in so that I could do stuff. I needed 3 or 4 different things, 5 things to be running, just to be able to create my own transaction if I wanted to do something a little bit clever or a little bit cool. Minima tries to squeeze all of that in so that you can do it all with the functions that they give you. So For instance, let's see, send is a good one, yeah? Now, if you want to know how to use a function, you can just say help command send, and it will give you a full breakdown of how to use that function, yeah? Everything is pretty much in pretty much standard format. You do the command, and then you put in a whole load of parameters, colon value, parameter colon value, parameter colon value. And that's really about it. You know, that's how you interface with Minima. So now I'm on the main network now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop this and I'm going to run a private network because then I get a billion Minima. Yeah, I'm going to run my own little private network, not going to connect to anybody, and then I can muck about and send some coins and create some tokens and just have a little bit of fun. Now you can press Control C and that shuts it down, or you can do quit. So I'm just going to do Control C, shut down hook. There you go, boom, and it stopped. That's it. We've gone in, we've gone out, we've gone in, we've gone out. Now let me show you some things that you can do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run a private network. So java-java.jar, I'm going to say no P2P. I don't want to connect to the P2P network. I'm going to run it in test mode. Why do I do that? That gives you a faster block time. Yeah, just so that you can see things happening a little bit faster. And I'm going to say dash Genesis. And this means I want to be a Genesis node. So I'm not having any P2P stuff. I'm not connecting to the network. I'm running in test mode, and it's going to be a Genesis node. Let's see what happens. Boom. Now, okay, there we go. Version, new unspent coin. Woohoo! Let's have a look at that. Balance. Ooh, I've got 1 billion Minima, right? So this is my own network now running. It's not connected to anybody else. It's just me mucking about with Minima. And it says unconfirmed because Minima uses a UTXO system. So when you receive coins, you have to wait a certain amount of time before those coins become spendable. Okay, so now let's see what block we're on. We're on block 2. All right, so it started and now it's moving along very, very slowly. Block 2, okay. It's creating my initial addresses. So Minima gives you 64 addresses. Since we use these sort of Lamport signature, quantum secure stuff, they take a little bit of time to create. So we create them beforehand, and you pick one of those randomly whenever you send money to have a change address. You can create more of them. You can have as many of them as you want. You can even change the size of them and have more signatures and smaller, larger size, etc., etc. But all default get addresses created. So let's just try something. Let's just try sending some money across the network. So get address. Boom. You'll notice that all the responses are in JSON. Yeah, this is important because later on when I show you the mini-DApp system, what you're basically doing is running these functions. You run these functions, I return you a JSON, and you can do stuff. So get address. Status true, and it shows you the script, return signed by OX2DD. That's a public key, yeah? If you want to see my keys, there they are. These are all my keys that are being generated. Oh, okay, so let's do that, sorry. Get address, okay, boom. Now, there's your mini address. So there's the address, which is just a hex value, and then there's your mini address. That is the same as the address, but it starts with an MX, and it's actually base 32, which makes it shorter. And what I also do is I hash the address and add the first 4 digits of the hash at the end as a checksum. So you always want to use mini addresses, the MX address, because you can't copy that in incorrectly. If there's a mistake in the MX address, it'll say this is an invalid address. It's got a checksum at the end. But because it's in base 32, it's actually shorter than the actual normal address, which is nice. So how would I go about sending some money? So I know I've got 1 billion coins, so I'm going to say send amount 10 address. Let's copy that. Let's go ding ding. So send amount 10 to that address. Let's see what happens. It's constructing a TX power transaction. It mines it asynchronously. It sends it. New spent coin, which is the billion. Yeah, so originally I had 1 billion, which was 1 coin. And now I've got 1 spent coin of 10, and it sent the change to me. Yeah, new unspent coin of amount 999,999. So now if I look at balance, what you'll see is I've got unconfirmed 1 billion because the change is also unconfirmed. Yeah, but I sent 10 back to myself, and it's like, okay, so that's all I had to do. Send address, amount, boom, you're done. Let's wait for that. This is why I'm running in. So normally the network runs on a 50-second block time, and you actually need to wait about three blocks before the network thinks that you could send it on again. That's actually not protocol specific. That's the client that says that, because in blockchain systems, the chain branches, and Minima uses a heaviest branch algorithm, so eventually you will jump onto the right chain. So why don't we create a little token now? Okay, confirm. So I've got my billion back. I sent it, I got it, it's all happening. Okay, cool. Now, let's create a token. Yeah, tokens are obviously very interesting. Everybody's excited about them. ERC20s. Minima natively supports tokens. What I mean by that is that the UTXOs themselves have you'll notice up here, a token ID. And Minima has a token ID of 0x00. And what this means is that you can color a piece of Minima. So it's like you take a fractional amount of Minima and you color it a certain color, a token ID, and then you can use it in all your scripts exactly as if it were Minima. So there's no overhead in terms of having to run extra code to process the fact that you're a token. It's not like a smart contract on Ethereum where you actually have code that manages that token. The tokens are treated and run exactly the same way as if they were Minima. So how would we do this? Let's go token create name Spartacus, amount 1000. I'm going to create a token name. Name is basically the string description. You can use a JSON for that, and you can put in whatever data you want. Yeah, you can put a name, description, icons, all of that stuff. Boom. Woohoo! All right, new spent coin, new spent coin. And if you look, I've got a new token ID here, yeah? Oh, so let's see what happens there. So now I've got my Minima, and I've got a token. Yeah, I've got 1000, unconfirmed, name Spartacus. You'll notice that that's a JSON. And that's it. That's as easy as it is. And now if I want to send that to somebody, yeah, I'm just going to wait for it to confirm. You may also, while this is going on, notice that I'm getting logs printed out to this main output. You know, I don't know whether that's, you know, people think that's normal or not, but this is the log out. You can actually log into Minima without being on the main Java-Jar page. You can either write a mini dApp or you can go in via RPC, and then you're not bothered by this stuff. But it doesn't actually make any difference when you're typing the commands. The command line knows that you've written, and when you type enter, whether or not there's been messages popping up, it still works. So, right. Balance. Confirm. So I've now got 1000 of this token called Spartacus. Let's see what block we're on. We're now on block 21. Woohoo. Okay, so the chain's progressing, moving along nicely. So let's send some tokens to somebody else. Yeah, not back to ourselves. So how would I do that? So I'm going to make up an address. So I'm going to say send amount 1 address 0xff, just a fake address. No one's got that. I'm not using an MX address. If that was an MX address, it'd say, hey, this is an invalid address, you can't use it. But because I'm using a normal, hexadecimal address, it doesn't. There's no way I can check whether that's correct. In fact, maybe it might say that's not enough stuff. Anyway, let's have a look. And then what I say is I say token ID, and then I'll get the token ID of Spartacus. There it is. Boom. Send amount 1 to that address, token ID. Bosh. Eesh. There you go. It makes the transaction, sends it to the back-end process. That mines it asynchronously. You don't have to. If you add mine true to the send command, you can mine it synchronously. That's important because you can, you can get back the TX power ID of your message and look for it. So now if we look, woo, I've got unconfirmed 999 because I've sent one of those tokens away. And interestingly, if we look at the balance of my Minima account, you'll notice it's 999.9999. Yeah, and that's because if I type tokens, it shows me all the tokens on the network. Okay, and so what's on the network? There's Minima, which has got 1 billion. Yeah, Minima's got 1 billion here. Decimals, 44 decimal places. Scale 1 to 1. And then I've got my token Spartacus here, which is there's the token ID. And what it shows you is the actual total amount of Minima I used making that token. It's 0.000. It's a scale of 36. You've got to move it 36 decimal places to get it to where it actually is in terms of how much value it is. It tells you the block that it was created. It was created in block 18, probably not very useful. And it tells you this has got 8 decimal places. Yeah, so I actually had to color 0.00001 of a Minima to create those 1000 Spartacus tokens that have 8 decimal places. And that's it, so that's ticking along very nicely now. I've got my token minima, I've got my, so it's basically very cheap to create tokens. Yeah, it was important that anybody could create tokens on the network. It shouldn't be an expensive thing that only certain people can do. You can set the number of decimal places to 0, and that way you're basically creating an NFT, yeah, because you can't chop it up. You can't have half of an NFT. So the number of decimal places, I only chose 8 because that's what Bitcoin's got. So all the exchanges use 8 decimal places as their default. So that's what happens default. But you can specify. In fact, let's have a look. Help command token create. Ooh, okay, so you can specify amount, decimals. You can give tokens a script, which has to be run when you're trying to, activate it. You can give it a state, sign the token, web validate. Very nice. You can add a burn. Lots of little things, yeah? And when you're looking for a function and you don't know what it does, just type help command and it tells you it. Now, another feature of all the functions that we've given you on Minima that I think is very useful is the scripting, KissVM. This is something that I have found quite hard to do with the core versions, whereas not in Minima. So let's say I want to run script, let h equal 1, let u equal 2, let g equal h plus u. What's that going to do? Ooh, all right. So we've given a little script. It's nice to be able to see through and debug through it. It goes, okay, there's a command variable, then it does a script, h, and in fact, g equals 3, which is correct. Now, every UTXO, every coin in Minima, those are the base units. That's what everything is based around. A coin has an address. That address is the hash of a script. Okay, that's all. It's all basically P2SH, if you know what Bitcoin is. So that address is the hash of the script. And when you try to spend a coin, the script either returns true or it returns false. Either you can spend that coin or you can't spend that coin. You can't say you can only spend a little bit of the coin, yeah? So if you do, so this returned contract finish false because I didn't explicitly say return true. Yeah, if I go let g equal 8 plus u, and then I'm going to say return g greater than 1. Yeah, what's that going to do? Boom. All right, it worked. So because g is 3, my last command was return g greater than 1. G is actually greater than 1 because it's 3, and so that contract returned true. So what you'd probably be doing is return, so when you looked at the keys, no, let's look at scripts. Yeah, what you'll see is that all the scripts are basically return signed by. Yeah, that's the default script. Yeah, you've got a public key. You can spend this coin if you sign it with this key. So most of the default addresses are just return signed by thingy. But you can do very complicated things here. You can, this is the point. Minima scripting allows you to have covenants. It allows you to check signatures. Each coin has a state variable. I'll talk more about this later, so don't worry. I'm not trying to give you a full breakdown of the whole of the KissVM system. But a coin has an address. The address is the hash of the script. And when you run the coin, when you try to spend it in a transaction, yeah, transactions are simply a set of inputs and a set of outputs and some state variables. You have to run each script and it has to return true. And if they all return true, then the transaction is valid. Okay, that's how it works. And that, I'm going to try and keep these short, but that is basically, that's basically what's going on. So if I now go Control C, it shuts down. All right, I'll start it up again. This is interesting. If I start it up again with dash Genesis, it'll wipe it. So you don't want to do that. So let's say you've been mucking about, you've been doing your thing, I've done some stuff. Delete the dash Genesis. I don't want to restart it again. I just want to do no P2P and test. All right, boom, and off we go again. Yeah, we're off to the races. MDS disabled. Yeah, I'll have to enable that again. I'll show you one more thing now. Backup and restore. So this is an important feature. In Minima, you are sovereign. In Minima, you are in charge of what you're doing. And so it's very important. Yeah, you don't want to rely on anybody. You don't want anybody else to have to be the person you go to ask you for, you don't have to ask anybody for anything. You want to be running it yourself. So let's make a backup. Yeah, so all I have to do is say backup. Okay, it's done a backup now. It's got all the relevant information. It's got my seed phrase and my private keys and all of that stuff, and it squashed it into that file, Minima backup, along with my, all the data of the blocks and all my unspent coins and everything. So what I need to continue is that backup. And if I want to restore from that backup, let's do it. So, oh, in fact, let's say I shut it down. Shall I shut it down? I'll just leave. It doesn't matter. I could be shutting down and I start up again. I save the backup. I send it to myself. I restart Minima. And I say restore file. Let's give it. We're in that folder, so I don't need to give it the full link. Restore da-da-dum. Wallet da-da-da-da-da. Message. Restart Minima for restore to take effect. I should have shown you the block because now you're not going to notice that it actually did anything. But that totally worked. I made a backup. That was that file. And then I restored from that file. That's it. That's all you got to do. You can specify files, and you can do more stuff. Help, command, help is your friend. Yeah, shows you what the different things you can give it are. And so that's nice. Yeah, it's like okay, you know. I suppose I should also say one more thing, which is quite important for sort of security and all of that. So you have private keys on this. Yeah, there's private keys on this. If no one can access your computer, that's fine. But I'm going to show you the private keys now. Oh, this is my private network, so it doesn't matter. Vault. Okay, look, there's my phrase. There's my seed phrase. Ooh, so if I copy that down, that phrase, all the keys that you use are deterministically created from that seed phrase. And if you've got that, you can regenerate just with that your private keys. And then if you speak to someone who's actually, there's archive nodes. So if you want to store all the data, you can. You don't have to. Yeah, the consensus mechanism uses PAL, and it uses you check all of the transactions from the moment you join the network. So, but if you want to store everything, you can. And if you lose your phone, lose your computer, lose everything, as long as there's an archive backup, currently I think that's about 160 megabytes. About 150 megs for 3 months. Yeah, not a lot. Yeah, a very small amount of data. And you have that seed phrase that you can do it. But let's have a look at some of the things I can do with Vault. Help command Vault. Help command Vault. So I can actually password lock it. Let's try doing that, shall we? Action password lock. So Vault action password lock. Password, something good, something difficult, password, something they'll never guess. Right, Vault action, password lock, password 123. Yeah, all private keys wiped. Right, so now the private keys aren't on the computer at all. Now everything's been wiped. Now if I try to, so let's have a look at what's interesting is I can still receive coins, I can still get an address, I still have my balance. So I can give you an address, you can send me the coins, that's no problem. But what if I try to send some money? Let's try send amount 10. What's going to happen now? Keys DB's locked, no private keys. Which is interesting because what it means is that even if somebody were to hack your computer, even if somebody were to, pinch your phone, pinch whatever, they can't send the coins because everything's been wiped. There's no private keys on here. They've been encrypted. Yeah, with a password. So if I now do want to Vault action password unlock, password 123, all private keys restored. So now they're back. Now if I go like that, boom, boom, there you go. So you can secure your node so that nobody can touch it and nobody can muck about with it. And just to stay, while we're talking about these functions, here is a very interesting set of functions. Yeah, that's the transaction creation function. So if you want to create your own custom transactions with your own input, when you say send, I build the transaction for you. When you do token create, I build the transaction for you. But if you want to do something cool, if you want to do a swap contract, if you have his token comes in and yours, and then that one gets sent to you, and this one gets sent to him, or if you want to do an HTLC or some interesting stuff, you need to create your transactions from scratch. Again, Minima gives you all the functions you need to do all of these things. That's the transaction functions here. I'll probably have to do another demo about how to muck about with that. And I think for this first version, we'll leave it there. That's the basics of Minima. I hope you notice that it's sort of quick and snappy, and you just run it, and you can do it, and you can stop it, and you can start it, and it's like, it's not a big, heavy process. Boom, shut down complete. There it is. That's the start of your journey on Minima. Thanks.